This is Pete Moore on Halo Talks. I have the pleasure of having Joe Cirulli, an industry veteran, a mentor to many, and an expert to all. Joe, welcome to the show. It's an honor.
Thank you very much, Pete. It's good to be with you.
Excellent. So we were just starting off on our little riff here about talking about, how a number of people that I know say that you were kind of their mentor and that they were kind of doing an apprenticeship and learning the industry from you. And they've gone on to build nice regional businesses, and they've been in different markets and in the technology side and the sales side, and each one of them basically says, hey, like Joe kind of anchored me and like started me in this field. So congrats on that, but maybe talk about how that happened, because it doesn't happen by accident.
Well, I think what occurs is I always knew where I wanted my business to go. I always knew what I wanted my company to be, even if it was a real little tiny company. And I've learned over the years that if you have the right culture and you do the right things and you're honest and you keep your word and you do all the right things always, that you start attracting people who believe in those same things. And I think I was very fortunate that our company started attracting those people.
How did where did that come from? Was that based on your upbringing? Was it based on team sports back in the days? Being an athlete?
Well, it was probably a combination of two things. First of all, my parents. I mean, I had great parents growing up. I had parents who worked hard their whole lives. I mean, there were 7 kids in my family. There was at one point there were 6 of us under 9 years old. My mother was a nurse and my father was a naval officer, and he was away almost all the time.
Unbelievable.
And when I think about how my mother did that, but she did it.
Yeah, and, superhero type of status, right? I mean,
and then the thing I always learned from my father was hard work. He always worked hard. He never complained about working hard.
Yeah.
So I had him as a great mentor. I had great grandparents who always worked hard, and they were immigrants. Mm-hmm. And I think that was the beginning. That was the foundation for it. I learned a lot through sports, through high school, having a team and having a small Catholic high school that there were times there were 11 of us on the football team. So
nobody was left out.
Yeah, and you played against school that had players that went from one goal line to the next goal line.
Right.
But I learned through that. But I was also very fortunate. I worked for 6 different companies 6 different health clubs that went bankrupt. And it was during those times I lived in closed down buildings. I lived in health clubs I worked in. I lived in my car.
Man, I've done a couple of those things.
Well,
not as many as you probably.
Well, the thing is, I mean, I was completely broke and everything else. So those were things that I think were very good things for me, not bad things for me, because I didn't complain. I just lived with it.
I agree. Like once I started out, definitely like on the privileged side of the tracks, and you're a star athlete or you're one of the best athletes, you're popular, and then, you have to, you got to kind of hit some psychological and physical and financial rock bottom in order to have like real humility in this world and be able to know that you're no better than anyone else and you only have opportunities because of who you are and what you make.
But you also learn how to deal with it. In other words, not being angry about it, but just understanding there's a reason why you're going through it, and that your passion for what you do will kind of stop you from ever quitting it, because I was very fortunate. There was nothing else I wanted to do. Right. I love this business.
What sports did you play back in the day?
It was back in high school.
Yeah.
I played football. I was on the track team. But I was also a competitive weightlifter. We had a team. So those were the main things, that I did. And the working out part was always part of my life. So the great thing was learning not about working out. I knew how to work out. It wasn't learning how to help people get in shape. I knew how to do that. But what I was very fortunate is I realized I loved learning about business.
Yeah. So you worked for 6 different health clubs that didn't make it. So obviously I use this term a lot with people. I say experience is what you get when you don't get what you want. So if you're knowledgeable and understand, like, why did something fail? Was it the time to market? Was it the business model? Was it the culture? Is it the people? After those 6 experiences, when did you get to the point where it was your own, and how did that happen?
Well, first of all, I learned from watching the people I worked for, and a lot of them were terrible. But the good thing is I was smart enough to say, let me learn what the bad things are. But even if they're terrible at what they do, there's got to be something that they're actually good at.
Right.
So I would search, for those things. By time I worked for the sixth one, by time they went bankrupt, I'll tell you, to be honest with you, I borrowed $1,700 and I started a health club.
There you go. There it is. I got it out of you.
I hired everybody.
Baby.
I hired everybody. I mean, the good thing for me where I was lucky, because I hired everybody to build it, and I had no money to pay any of them, but I advertised like crazy, knowing I didn't have to pay the bill for 30 days. The one advantage I had being from upstate New York and being Italian was I used to hear the rumor, he's in the mafia. When I heard that, I used to think, thank God they believe that. At least they're going to think I have the money to pay them.
Right.
But somehow,
It's a liberal business.
somehow every week I had enough money to keep the guys going for the next week and the next week and the next week.
And now this was back in the day when you could sell memberships and you didn't have to be bonded. So you basically could sell memberships to use it for the construction of the club. Just give people historical
bonding
reference.
The bonding started 2.5 years after I was in business.
Correct.
That's when they came in.
Bam.
And you only had to be bonded for a total of 3 years. You only had to be in business 3 years. So when they called me, when the state said, you need to be bonded, I said, well, if I don't pay the money to get bonded, are you going to put me out of business? And I said, how about if I do this? How about if I just take a CD, have it held down for 6 months by the bank?
Oh, okay.
And
That
they
works.
agreed to that.
All right. Excellent. So you start your own club with $1,700, and you're an entrepreneur. You've seen 6 businesses fail, and you're like, all right, I'm going to win. I'm going to figure out how to do it. Talk about what that product was, and is that still part of the portfolio today, or is it, where
Well,
did it
I mean,
move to?
the first health club was 2,500 square feet.
All right, so you started as like a pop-up to what you're doing now.
Yeah, we put
effectively.
in a little shopping center and took the equipment from the 6th club that went bankrupt and started it. But every time I had the opportunity to make it larger, every time I had the opportunity to get more equipment, I did it. And so we never stopped growing. So that 15 or 2,500 square foot club is 80,000 square feet now in a different location. I had to buy land and build a building. And then we added 2 more clubs and 2 rehab centers, to the whole process.
And how long have you been living in Gainesville? Have you been there since the beginning of the job?
Well, I started,
Career here?
I went to visit somebody in Gainesville in October of 1973.
Okay.
That was for 30 days. And 30 days eventually became the rest of my life.
Oh, okay. Got it. So, as the industry has evolved and you see competitors come and go, and you basically have seen everything at this point, and when you see something new, I'm sure you have a belief of like, okay, this is like something else I've seen before, or it's well capitalized and it could be a good competitor and maybe something I should, learn more about. But how have you kind of managed through being like, look, we're in a great spot in our community, and we're just going to maintain that spot. I'm going to know what's going on, but I'm not going to let it, change what I believe in.
Well, I always evaluate our community. I don't get so concerned about the competition because I know we have to stay focused on what we're really good at.
Right.
And so that's what we've always done. But as I said before, I've never stopped growing as a company. We've never stopped finding ways of making a better place for employees to be at. And I have a great relationship with the members. So the focus was Gainesville, and over time, I had the opportunity to do a lot of research on working with people who had back pain with major universities around the country, and eventually I realized it was a problem we could help solve, and we started a major orthopedic rehabilitation center in our clubs. So there have been other things, also looking at the marketplace and looking at the growth of boutiques. Starting back in 2012, we began a major renovation of my biggest center.
Okay.
And we developed boutiques right inside of the center. And over time, took the concept of a boutique that isn't out there at all. And we opened a center in Clearwater, Florida, about 3 years ago. And now we're just opening up a second one in Tampa, Florida.
Under the same name, no?
It's called X-Force Body by GHF, by Gainesville Health and Fitness.
Gotcha.
So we're
Say
developing
that one
those
again.
now.
It's called
X-Force Body
X-Force.
by GHF.
Okay.
So it's a whole new concept, but it's all built on strength training to help you lose body fat.
Got it. Got it. Great. So, as you've, done extremely well and built a business, got a great culture and competitive advantages as I've known for years. What said to you, what happened in your life where you said, okay, let me go and, take over URSA and become the president of URSA and represent the industry? And, what did you learn from that as you were able to now maybe even get even a broader intelligence and listening to what the market's saying?
Well, I never planned to lead URSA. That's just something that kind of evolved.
Oh, they got you in a hot box or something?
No, I was on the board of directors, and they voted me in. And it was a great experience because you got to deal with some of the top people in the industry. I had the opportunity to deal with a guy named John McCarthy, who started URSA. And it was just an exceptional year. I always worked, and this is where I've always been fortunate. I've always worked with exceptional teams, whether it be at URSA or whether it be inside of my own company.
Okay.
And I think that's been if there's, quote, a secret to somebody's success, it's making sure you have all the right people with you, and I always have.
That's great. So how much over the years have you started to embrace technology, look at the data, maybe some of your management, meetings are, much more data driven and maybe less, or, have changed from what do the surveys say to now, what do the analytics say? You're a guy who likes to listen to what's going on at the front lines, like I do.
Yeah.
And I want to hear it directly. I don't want to necessarily see it on a spreadsheet. So how do you personally kind of toggle between, this is how I like to consume information if you're like me, and I'll look at your reports as well, and let's kind of have a discussion about what you think it means or what I think it means.
Yeah, the way that they've been able to allow us to analyze data has been real helpful, but I'm inside the clubs. I'm talking to the people all the time.
That's what I'm saying.
So I got the greatest opportunity there. Plus, I read a lot. Plus, I listen to speakers a lot. So I have an opportunity to get a lot of ideas from them. I mean, we've done all the traditional stuff with Infusionsoft and making sure we can get all the right information to the people and being able to design responses and using technology. Obviously in our marketing department, we use technology. So we'll do those things, but probably the most useful data to us and to me is, we have a company that analyzes that does the analysis of our members, and where we can get responses from our members, where we can be getting reports from our members so that we have a really good understanding of how they see the company. And when we see their issues, we're able to address their issues immediately. So that's the kind of data that's most important to me. We use a company called Medallia.
Yeah, sure.
And you may be familiar with it.
Blair McKinney,
yeah,
of course.
Yeah. He's a great guy.
Yep.
And it just gives us the opportunity to see real-time stuff. Gives us the opportunity to respond to those people immediately. And to me, that's probably
awesome.
the greatest data we can get.
That's great. All right, let me ask you a personal question, if we can go there. You're a guy that has got the ability to raise capital, could have gone into multiple states, could have, gone on a growth equity curve and, put a lot of debt on the business and, looked at what you're doing and say, okay, I got a prototype. I could stamp out 50 of these and let me figure out who to call Integrity Square, Pete Moore, or call somebody else and go and find the capital. I feel like you have basically said, look, I'm creating unbelievable experiences. This is not just about capitalism. This is about, communitization and, helping people and making them feel happy. How did you kind of get comfortable or say, look, this is what I'm doing, and what do I need to go, to Atlanta for? I'm doing everything I want to do, and I'm getting everything I want out of life.
I never varied from it from the beginning. I said right from the start, I want us to become the greatest we can become in one town, and through influence, be able to affect the world. And that's how we've always done it. And we still continue to do it. So our goal was to be the absolute best in our community, to be able to help our community the best way possible. I mean, it's like when we set major goals, like to make Gainesville the healthiest community in America, and worked on it for 3.5 years and made Gainesville the healthiest community in America. the way we can connect with the people in that town. I know a long time ago there was a major company that wanted to buy me, and they wanted me to become part of it. And I can remember one of their vice presidents, I said, well, tell me about your future. And they started doing things, say, well, we plan on having a box here and a box here and a box here. And I'm sitting there thinking, I don't work in a box.
Yeah.
I work with human beings. And I've never lost sight of that.
It's intense. I mean, people talk about the prototype. People talk about, oh, your operating margins are low. Do you know that we employ about 70 people? What part of the operating margin? You mean after I helped all those people and after I'm helping thousands of people and my margin's 5% lower based on what you think it is or I think it's fun?
Yeah.
How do you react to things where people say hey, what's your profitability? What's your KPIs? I'm like, let's talk about what I've done.
Yeah.
How many people I've helped, and then we can talk about the financial component to it.
The funny thing is I never worried about the money. Ever, right from the beginning. I read a quote once when I was 21. It said, if you help enough people get what they want out of life, you'll get everything you want out of life.
I love it.
And when I read that, I go, that's what the essence of business is. You find every way you can to help other people. Don't worry about yourself. And see, one thing that I am good at is I listen to people who I really respect and admire. And I don't have to go try and prove you wrong when you give some great advice. And when I listen to the Earl Nightingales and the Dennis Whateleys, when I listened to all of them, I followed them. Mm-hmm. I did what they had talked about doing. And so I said, don't worry about the money. The money will take care of itself. The money has totally taken care of itself. I mean, I went from 3 employees, I have 500 employees now.
Amazing.
We went from 500 members to 28,000 members. We have all the different programming. We have all the different elements to help people. I started the rehab center because I knew we had something that could really help people. And I didn't worry about the money because I know you figure out how to make the money part,
sure.
But the goal is to help as many people as possible. That's how the whole company has been built. And
it's amazing.
In the beginning and still is.
So just on a last note, maintaining a culture, in one location, that's manageable. And then we go to 2 and it's like, all right, that location might be good and we can affect influence, but basically cutting this company up like a cell, cell replication, right? And how much of that do you feel now that you've over the life of your company, that the foundation and the values are so well ingrained that, you like to go into a lot of meetings, but you don't have to. You don't have to be in front of people that are getting hired because they know, or it's embedded. I want people to understand you can't create that overnight.
Yes.
And and then when it starts, you can't deviate from it because if it's broken, it's never fixable.
Well, I'll tell you what was kind of interesting. About a month and a half ago, we had to fire someone who had been with us for 16 years because of a comment made by this person to another employee. The last time we fired someone for that exact same reason was 38 years ago.
Wow.
For the exact same thing. And so the culture has always been maintained. And the way you maintain a culture is when you have it, you never deviate from it. Mm-hmm. If you see any deviation, you fix it immediately. And my staff knows that. Because I told them, I said, look, if we don't work to make everything perfect, we accept everything way, way below, and you start the downfall from there. And they all know that. And so I haven't had to hire somebody in 20-some years, maybe longer, because that was an accountant who's still with us. But no, we have all the right people who find all the right people, and I meet with them all the time.
Yeah.
It's not like I don't see them. I mean, every Monday morning we meet for 3 hours with all the top leadership of the company. Building the culture inside of Gainesville was easy. When we were going to build another club, we hired all the people that we were going to hire to bring into the new club. We hired them all, had them work in the existing club. Smart. And then when we made the move, we took 75% of those people and 25% of the people that had been with us and moved them to the new club. So
Smart.
The culture was the same immediately.
Yeah, but these are the little things that if you take in private equity capital and you're an entrepreneur in the space and you start using terms, which I am guilty of at times also because I'm trying to sell someone on like what the business model is,
Right,
and you got to
right.
stamp things out.
Right.
Sorry for saying that.
Yeah.
We got to put up boxes.
Yeah,
We got to
of
have
course.
prototypes. We got to have unit economics. We have to have all that.
Sure.
But what people don't realize is what you just talked about. You say, look, that works in the financial model, and you can use whatever lingo you need to use in order to accomplish your personal, professional, or financial goals. However, think about like the human side of this. Like, what is going to really be successful? Spend the extra 50 grand. Go and hire those people and have them work in the club. Double staff the club for 2 months, right? Which sounds like, from a financial standpoint, someone would be like, you know what, Joe, Pete, like, show them a video, okay? Like, do a 3-day retreat,
Right,
like, cut
right,
the shit, right?
right,
That's what they would say to
right,
me.
yeah, of course, I understand.
Right? But what you're saying is, like, look, if you want to build something that lasts, go back, take 2 steps back, get everyone on the same page, and then march it forward. And then step it back and march it forward. So,
Yeah, that's what it's
I love
always.
the philosophy.
That's what it's always been about.
Yeah.
Since it wasn't worrying about going to another town, it was just being the best we could be in our town, and it never stops. You know, we just went through 6 years of major renovation. I mean, every inch of the club expanded and rebuilt as we built new boutiques inside of the center, and we finished that. I said, okay, now that we have that done, our major goal would be go to every component of our business operationally, and we have to make it better than what it is.
That's
so
great.
that's what everybody is focusing on right now. And then we'll find the next thing when the next thing is the right time.
yeah, when you got a culture of trust, loyalty, getting people results, and if something comes out that is an alternative way of getting people results, you're the authority
Yeah.
on it, and just, you know, figure out what it is. Like,
Yep.
a lot of these boutiques are not going to survive, you know, but it's a nice R&D lab
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
see
sure.
what people, you know,
Sure,
will resonate. We hope more of them do succeed and they have their own business, and we just get, you know, 2 or 3 times the amount of people to
Right.
come to us instead of going to a movie or going for like a Taco Bell Mexi Melt or something that's not really doing them any good.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
So look, it's great to meet you in person.
too,
I've
Pete.
heard a lot about you over the years, and it's kind of like you've created quite a lineage of influence and culture and doing the right thing. And like you said, do all the right things and things will come back to you,
Yeah.
and just worry about
Yes.
other people. You know, karma is what this world is based on, and you've maintained and you know, developed a reputation, you know, bar none. So congrats on that. Thank you for everything you've done, and we're going to continue to move the Halo sector in an ethical way, the Cirulli fashion.
Well, I've been very fortunate. They have a lot of great people in my life. So thank you very much, Pete.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Great to see you.
Thank you, Pete.